So whenever I'm airbrushing, I always do this to my airbrush, and I find that it makes the whole process so much better. Let me show you what I do right now. So whether you're painting with a gravity feed airbrush like this, or a suction feed airbrush like this one, or maybe you've got a side feed airbrush like this one, perhaps even a trigger airbrush like this one here, it really doesn't matter which style of airbrush you've got, because I always remove this one part from any airbrush that I'm using, and that part is the air cap. Now, why do I remove the air cap? It's because I prefer having the needle exposed so that I can easily see if tip drying is forming. And tip drying is paint that is drying up on the end of your needle, because of the air that flows through the fluid nozzle naturally will dry the paint, and you will start to see a build up on the end of your needle. Once that starts to happen, and if it builds up too much, then what will happen is it starts to block and it'll obstruct your flow. So with the needle being exposed, I can easily come in there and carefully pick it off with my fingernail. Now do this very carefully. Some of the finer needles can potentially bend, especially if it's a softer style needle. This Iwata HPC Plus has a fairly solid needle, so I don't really have to worry about it with this one. You can also use like a cotton bud, and there's many other tools. Bit of paper towel will work to remove the tip drying. The other benefit is that when I'm doing fine detail work, I can easily see the end of that needle, and I actually think that it allows for finer detailing because I can get up nice and close to my artwork or my paper in this case. Check out our online airbrushing course at airbrushasilum.thinkific.com, and I'm able to see exactly where my needle is without the risk of running it into the surface. So you can see now with that air cap fitted, it's a lot harder to get up nice and close in order to get super fine detail. I just find you've got that air cap in the way. And look, it works okay for just doing some random lines on a page, but if you're trying to airbrush, say, an eye or something really detailed and it's tiny, then you're going to have to look kind of past the air cap, whereas when I have the air cap removed, you can see I'm able to very easily see the edge of that needle and get up really nice and close, as opposed to if I refit the air cap, then yes, I can go up close, but it definitely makes it harder to see where I'm painting. So all in all, doesn't matter which style of airbrush you're using, I always prefer to take the air cap off. Now some airbrushes may not allow this, or they will require you to get another air cap called a paint picker air cap, or a different type of air cap to make that area flat and just exposing that needle. But with the brands of airbrushes that I use, those brushes all allow you to remove the air cap, and you can easily spray without it. The only thing that you need to worry about when removing the air cap is that if you drop your airbrush, then more than likely you'll damage the needle, and you can also potentially damage the nozzle. So you need to be extremely careful when putting your airbrush down. That's why I like to use a quick connect. Quick connects save you, because when you put your airbrush in a holder, it's not connected to the hose, so therefore you won't risk tripping over the hose and pulling that airbrush out of the holder. And always put your airbrush back in the holder. Like I said earlier, unclip your quick connect hose so that you can't pull it off the holder. And if your airbrush comes with one of these rubber caps, then you can use that when it's sitting in the holder if you need to go back to it, so whilst you're working through an artwork, or you can just screw the air cap back on. So even though this is a very basic tip, I think it's so important. So let me know in the comments whether or not you take the air cap off your airbrushes when creating artwork. It's something that I've been doing ever since I started, and I found out that you can run your airbrush without the air cap. So I hope this little quick tip has helped you with your airbrushing.